All right, guys, I have an important question off the top that I have to ask you before we talk about the game I'm going to talk about after the intro. Does ACAB include RoboCop, Steve?
I don't think it really counts if you're just a husk of a guy, are you?
I mean, he still has a human brain, Kevin.
Yeah, I think RoboCop is a cop for the people.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. He's just out there doing his own thing. Sometimes his programming prevents him from doing, I gotta have a warrant or something like that. But other than that, I think he's for the people.
I don't think RoboCop racially profiles.
No, definitely not.
No.
Okay, let's start the show.
Step into video game land. Welcome to Fine Time.
Hello, party people. It's your boy Dre. It is the Fine. It is the Time. It is the Steve.
Yes, it is. It is the that.
You got to do better than that. It is the Kevin.
I don't want to give you something real good and show up Steve now, though.
I mean, you're not.
This is a hard spot you're putting me in.
I know. I'm sorry. It's a tough act to follow, but you can't raise that finger all by itself, Steve. Remember, I told you that's rude.
I know. Especially after what I had to do to you people last show. I know.
Oh my God. Okay. Usually I think a more prepared podcast would save this for the end, but I kind of want to say this up front before we get to what we've been playing. This will be our final big deal of the year. We need to recharge our batteries. We record these every 2 weeks, and the in-between shows we record as we can. Those are pre-recorded. I know that sounds silly to say when everything on a podcast is pre-recorded. We're obviously not here live. You know what? But you know what I mean.
That would be exhausting.
Exactly. Well, we record these big deals on a Wednesday evening. I immediately edit them and put them up Thursday morning, which is fine. That's how my body clock works. But, we need a break. All of us need a break from recording. So this will be the last big deal of the year. But do not worry. The last 6 weeks of the year, we have plenty of stuff coming up. On Thanksgiving, we have Sonic Superstars, because what's Thanksgiving without Sonic, really? I mean, when you think about it. We're going to talk about the Game Awards, Game of the Year, history of the Game of the Year Awards. And then in December, we're going to have me and Steve watch a bunch of fighting game anime. And we're going to just unleash them all.
That sure was a thing we did.
Yeah, it was. So,
but after this episode, we're all going to have a very long group shower, and then we're going to, the three of us, crawl into a cave den like bears and huddle up and hibernate for a few months, is what you're trying to say.
Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. You know what we should wear? You know what a Snuggie is? A Snuggie, it's like a hoodie, but it's like a blanket that you wear. Yeah, we should wear those for sure.
Snuggies are just backwards robes, though, to be fair.
Sort of, but it's also like blankety. Like a robe doesn't feel like a blanket.
Some robes feel like blankets. Not towel robes.
Yeah, I've only had
Snuggies are awful. I said it.
Yeah, I've been offended by Snuggies for the last 15 years. So
wow, are we anti-Snuggie on this show?
I've never even.
Wow, I haven't even wore one yet. So
as you shouldn't.
Okay, fine. I guess we're just going to be naked in this cave, huddling together and snuggling. I guess that's what Kevin wanted in the first place. So I guess
mission accomplished.
I can't believe you guys have time for naked cave cuddling. Some people have Christmas related jobs.
I mean, you're acting like I don't work God, New Year's Eve for me. I don't remember the last time I actually did anything fun for New Year's Eve. That is work, baby. Prime time work. So yeah. Anyway. We will talk about video games now, I guess. That's kind of what we do.
Oh, thank God.
Finally. I'll go first, because I want to talk about RoboCop Rogue City. And I'm sure a lot of people have seen this game on the internets. It's the RoboCop simulator of everyone's dreams, and I'm not going to beat you around the bush. Yes, that's exactly what it is, and it's really good. But I'll talk about all the ins and outs here. So the title screen plays like this pensive piano version of like the RoboCop theme, and it kind of felt like trailers from the 2010s where they were just ruin a good song and making like a downbeat sad version of it. You know, that like happened a lot. You know, and I'm not saying this is that, but this piano version of the RoboCop thing definitely gave me like 2014 RoboCop PG-13 ass RoboCop vibes, which, you know, whatever. But the game is definitely not that.
Sorry, I'm just remembering last year when we had Ghostbusters Afterlife and they did the same shit.
Oh yeah, didn't they do? Yeah, they did the main Ghostbusters theme sad, didn't they?
Yeah. I'm like, what the hell is this? Who's this for?
Awful.
They have this other one coming in February that I hope is much better. But anyway.
There was a game, I don't remember if it was at a Bethesda conference, I think it was, where I think it was the Evil Within 2, and they made a super sad version of Duran Duran's Ordinary World. Already not like a really upbeat song, right? It's already not like a super happy song, and they made it so depressing. That's when I broke. That's when I was like, I never want to hear another one of these again. Like, I was so upset during that whole thing, besides the fact that, you know, I didn't like The Evil Within at all. So seeing a sequel to that was like, get the fuck out of here. And you're ruining Duran Duran on top of it. Like, fuck off. So I think what's important, and Kevin, you recently watched RoboCop for the first time.
Because of the trailer for this game. I had never watched RoboCop and I didn't have that much interest, and I seen the trailer for this game and I thought that looks fucking cool. So I did. I took the initiative to watch RoboCop. It was awesome. It totally holds up as a first view.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite movie of all time. So I have a lot invested in this game, you know, being good or at least competent, you know? And the tone is correct, Kevin, because, you know, it has that satirical, you know, making fun of America, you know, commercialism, corporate bullshit, all that stuff.
Semi-dystopian.
Exactly. All that stuff is here. It opens with a news segment of like something terrible that they present as like happy news, you know. It was good. So this is an Unreal Engine 5 game, and it is doing work here. The production is kind of cheap. This is not a AAA game by any means, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it's a great showcase of what Lumen can do for lighting instead of like ray tracing, you know? And I don't know which one is better, or I guess they both have, you know, pros and cons, but in this case, they're using the full suite of Unreal Engine 5 stuff, and it's great at 60 frames a second. And that frame rate mostly holds until things get a little busy. There's this one thing I did last night where it's like, here's a bunch of SWAT team guys. Here's like 20 villains to shoot. Here's a couple Ed 209s. And things got really chaotic, and it was a lot. But other than that, it's a pretty stable game. It looks great. All the reflections are great. All the lighting stuff, like when RoboCop is standing next to a cop car with its lights on, you know, those blue and red lights reflect off of him perfectly. It looks phenomenal. The likenesses, they got the likenesses of RoboCop / Murphy and Lewis, his partner. And even Kevin, you remember the black dude, the police chief, you know what I mean? Kind of short-ish, and like, yeah, they got him. They even, Steve, they got the mayor from RoboCop 2.
That is something.
Yeah, they got him too, that little fucking twerp. Like, they did everything, you know? And, well, not every single person's likeness is in here, obviously, but those are the ones that I've noticed so far, and it's great. They really look like them. I don't know what Unreal Engine 5 does for, like, likenesses or faces or, you know, whatever, but it's great. Here's the problem, though. All the cutscene animations and facial animations are pretty poor. Horizon Forbidden West, this is not. You know what I mean? They're not mocap. They don't even appear very realistic at all. This is some very, like, late PS2, early PS3 type of cutscenes, unfortunately. So that kind of lets it down. But look, This is not a AAA game. They can't be spending money on this. They spent the money on the likenesses and making it look good. If the cutscenes have to suffer, okay. I personally think it's an okay trade-off, but clearly this is the cost of doing business, Steve.
Can we at least get some sensible chuckles out of the cutscenes, or do they play it too straight for that?
No, there's some decent dialogue. It's not boring. And also, actually, the story is interesting so far. I haven't beaten the game, but honestly, you're kind of invested in what's going on. I am anyway. So it's good story stuff. And there's a lot of little side missions you can do of hey, RoboCop, help me lift up this thing because you're a bucket of bolts, right? And then you do that and then you get more experience points. Yes, RoboCop has experience points. I guess what people want to know about is the shooting, right? Because that's how this thing is going to make a name for itself, because that's something that has to be correct, because you're RoboCop. You're slow. You're clunky. You have a turn radius of a snail, right?
I have a question. Do you shoot people in the dick?
You can shoot people in the dick.
Okay.
Absolutely. And they react.
That seems critical.
Oh, yeah. And it's exactly how you think it might go. The animations when you shoot people are great. If you blow off their head, obviously, they spray everywhere. If you blow off their hand, they're like, oh, my hand and shit like that. Hey, that seemed to have happened to RoboCop.
That's great, because my hand is exactly what somebody would say if you shot them in the hand.
Exactly.
That would be a weird response for a knee shot.
Yeah, you can kneecap them. You can kneecap them and whatever.
I needed that knee for fucking my wife.
That was so, that's actually one thing about the original movie that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And he didn't go in too much into his family life, but it's okay, does she remarry or something? I didn't really totally understand what was happening there. But I'm not going to spoil, but maybe this game can get to the bottom of that, just saying, it might happen, it might not. Again, I haven't beat the game, but I've just seen a couple things, that's all. But think about that. The fact that I don't even want to spoil the story for you guys means that it actually is worth investing in. The fact that I don't want to say it means that, Anyway.
I do. Well, just while you're on story, I also want to ask: does it kind of play where he's realizing his psyche as the movie goes through? Does it kind of play with that concept?
Well, sort of, because this takes place after RoboCop 2. It's in between 2 and 3.
Okay.
So he's already kind of gone through that shit. So, but there is still, his mind isn't obviously he's part man, part machine. His brain doesn't always mesh with the mechanical parts of it, right? And OCP wiped his memory, but of course, stuff still remains. So, it still plays with those concepts, even though it's 2 movies past that. The shooting, it's great. It feels exactly like it should. You're a big badass tank of a guy. And that power fantasy of being RoboCop is fully realized, of walking into a warehouse. There's guys on the railings, there's guys on the floor doing drugs and shit, and you just go in there and pop pot and blow them all away. You get that in this game. It's great. It feels good. And the shooting is fun. It's obviously a first-person game because, a lot of the movie takes place that way because you're seeing from RoboCop's perspective or whatever, so they still do that thing. Anyone out there, including you two, may be wondering at this point, if you are just this hulking metal man that can just get shot a million times, how can that provide any challenge? So, much like Armored Core 6, which I talked about this summer, where there's a lot of enemies shooting at you and you have a lot of HP, so damage is inevitable. You're going to take damage. It's about mitigating that. That's what RoboCop Rogue City does as well. So think about this. You walk into a bank or something like that, and there's stone pillars. Obviously, you don't want to walk right down the middle because everyone could just blow you away, right? You might want to walk around those pillars and screen someone's, line of sight to you so they can't shoot you as much, right? Little things like that you might need to do while playing the game. And that sounds simple, but those are things you need to do while also shooting these guys. And they also sometimes get heavy artillery. There's sometimes guys that get throw grenades at you, which can do big damage.
Nothing a shot in the dick can't fix.
Well, yeah, you can just shoot them in the dick from any distance. like I said, you do have experience points. You can upgrade your armor if that's what you're concerned about. You can get little powers too. Like I like this one where for like 10 seconds, you take 80% less damage. So if there's a spot where a bunch of guys are starting to wail on you with their guns, you can just kind of pop that and kind of tank it a lot better and blow them away without taking too much damage. So it's about damage mitigation, which is a thing I really like in games like this. And it makes you feel badass. You're still RoboCop. You're clunky. You're slow. You're blowing guys away. They can't do a whole lot to you, but you can die if you're not careful. It's not a cakewalk. One other thing I want to say, and because I was talking about the likenesses, I usually don't get geeked out about stuff like this, but Kevin, again, you just watched the movie, the police station, the wood paneling, they have the locker rooms, and he has that evaluation room downstairs and like all the iconic stuff in there. Even like when they get in the cop car and they go up that ramp and just kind of shoot out into the street there, all that's there. All of that shit is there. It looks so good. I was so geeked. And again, I don't usually do that kind of stuff, like in a video. It's just a video game, I don't, unless it, I don't know. When I was playing Die Hard Trilogy back in the day on PS1, it wasn't like, oh, this is the building where John McClane had that heist or whatever, stopped that heist, because it's fucking PS1 graphics. You know what I mean? It's not really going to look like that. Now we're to the point where shit can look like that, and it is so cool. You know what? It gave me the feeling, I know this might sound a little silly, where I've been there before. It's like going to a place that you haven't been to in like 20 years. It's like, oh shit, and it looks exactly how now, obviously this place isn't real, so I haven't been there before, but it gave me that feeling, and that's because that's how like good it looks in this game. So I wanted to commend that.
When the movie is RoboCop, we've been there before.
Of course, we have all been to Neo Detroit or Delta City. That's what they were building on top of the. Oh, one more thing before I shut up about RoboCop. The music is great. Obviously, they have the RoboCop main theme. Clearly, but they don't spam it. All the music of the game isn't just a leitmotif of the main theme. They have all sorts of appropriate music that sounds very RoboCop-y, and it's really good. It sounds like a film soundtrack from an 80s action movie, and it's dramatic, and it's very RoboCop. I don't know if they pulled that stuff directly from RoboCop movies. They may have, or they may have not. If they didn't, they did a really good job of capturing the feel of that score. Because again, I know I keep referring to this, Kevin, you just saw it. The music in that movie is so good. It's so fitting of not just a time period, but just that particular movie. It really works in this game too. But yeah, I guess that's about it. RoboCop, Rogue City. If you are a fan of RoboCop, it is a must play. Steve, you got to play this.
I want to.
Kevin, you gotta.
It's on the list for sure. It sounds fucking awesome.
It's really cool. Like I said, it cuts some corners because, it's not that AAA production we may all be expecting. And, before I shut up, and I promise I'll shut up after this, there is one thing that threw me off, and it is the reverse of what I always say. So you know how the title, Kevin, where it says like RoboCop and then the logo like flies into the screen? It does that in this game, RoboCop Rogue City. It doesn't look right at 60 frames a second. That's something you need to see that in the film, the 24 frames a second with that grain, you know what I mean? And it looks correct. It's whoosh. That doesn't quite look right in a video game that's running 60, It's not quite the same thing for some reason.
It's really fucking cool that they like mostly did this justice by the sounds of it, because when are you going to get another chance? If they fuck up RoboCop in 2023, I don't think you're getting another chance. RoboCop is not coming back. You know what I mean? It's different than Harry Potter. You can put out a shitty Harry Potter game. There's going to be, 10 more Harry Potter games in the next 15 years. And there's no changing that. But like RoboCop, if they would have fucked this up, maybe we'll get another game, because it sounds like they really did what they needed to do with it.
Yeah. I'm so glad they cared so much, and again, and it's not just a police station. There's plenty of other stuff in the game where you will see locations from the movie and you'll be like, oh shit, it's that, and they're done perfectly. This was a labor of love, and you can tell these guys, I think it's a Polish studio, they really cared about the source material here to do this justice. So sorry for talking so long about RoboCop, but I wanted to sing its praises. Kevin, why don't you go next?
Why don't I go next? I got WarioWare Move It. And I was fucking jazzed about this because it was obviously going to be a successor to Smooth Moves, which is my favorite WarioWare game. But goddamn, this is really, really a successor to Smooth Moves. When they show you the poses, they're introduced in the same manner with the same humor. So they were. This wasn't just, we're doing the motion thing again. They were very apparent that this. You could define this as Smooth Moves too, which I think is great.
That's so cool.
So mechanically, this almost always works really well, but there are odd times when the Joy-Cons don't quite respond how I want them to. I think I was very surprised with Smooth Moves. Like they did I don't remember anything. And I played that within the last few years again. I never had a sense that there was like certain mini games that the Wiimote just wasn't quite equipped to handle. And I do once in a while get that with the Joy-Cons where it's a little finicky. But on the flip side, they also had some functionality that Smooth Moves just couldn't have done with the Wiimote. So one good example, there's a case where you have to get down on the floor and you set both your Joy-Cons on the floor and you have to like literally flip them over so they're either facing up or facing down to manipulate different things on the game. And that works really well. There's cases where you use the IR sensor on the bottom of the right Joy-Con. I don't know if I've ever really used the IR sensor on the right Joy-Con.
I think I've used it in 1-2 Switch, and I feel like I used it in one other thing, and I can't remember. Labo, Nintendo Labo.
Oh yeah.
That's
okay.
the only time. Otherwise, yeah,
I did use it with Labo, but yeah, you can see the outline of an image on the screen. So for something like this, it's perfectly suited to it. One other thing with this game, when I played Smooth Moves, I could still be a fat shit and sit on the couch and they'd be like, you need to put your hands on your hips. And I'd be like, well, I'm going to fucking put my hands out right in front of me and pretend they're on my hips. And that worked fine. You cannot do that here. The entire game, so far I've been playing with my son. We've only done, the story mode in 2-player. Mm-hmm. And we realized pretty quickly you need to stand up and you, in most cases, really need to emulate those poses. Mm-hmm. I tried sitting down and it would just not quite achieve the same effect.
Okay.
And also, if you guys bought your Switch and quickly decided you didn't need those Joy-Con straps that come with them, if you plan on playing this, you have to find these. They are 100% necessary. So we actually were digging in bins, so we had 2 pairs of Joy-Con straps around.
I actually do like the Joy-Con straps, especially when you're using one Joy-Con, because it makes it beefier, it makes it easier to press the triggers, So if I'm doing a single Joy-Con thing, I do have I keep that strap on me.
I tried going without it first, and we put Matthews on first because he kept holding them naked and he would hit the pairing button and hold it on the back of the Joy-Con. So we kept getting booted out of the game and having to start sections over because it had to keep being paired. But no, everybody needs these, whether you're unpairing controllers or not. Mm-hmm. There's games where you have to just hold the Joy-Cons and let them go. So the straps need to be there to stop that from happening.
That's great. I feel like there was wasn't that a Smooth Moves thing too, where you had the strap and I feel like you did something like that.
See that I was cheating and I don't remember finding because I
dropped
know
it
all
on the floor.
Dropped it on the couch.
You just dropped it on the floor. Mic dropped, Wiimote dropped, on the floor.
Set it over top of the baby that I'd recently had and dropped it.
Plop.
Sorry, baby. Humor wise, this is, and again, the WarioWare games each kind of have their own identity while they've got a pretty consistent theming. Again, very similar to Smooth Moves. And I think that I would say this is the funniest writing I've seen WarioWare have in any game yet. I had a number of moments where I got a real good belly laugh, especially when they're presenting the poses that you need to do for the mini games. They really fucking nailed it. Now, this is just a bit of side griping and nothing to do with the game. I haven't finished this yet, and everybody knows that WarioWare games are fairly short and don't take long. But I've got a shoulder tumor, which I've bitched to you guys about. It's not cancerous or anything, but I can play this for like 20 or 30 minutes at a time, and then I've got to say we've got to shut her down. Because that's like how much activity there needs to be. You need to be like flailing your arm above your head pretty quickly. So this has been a little bit of a slow burn because my old man shoulder gets sore.
Oh man, I hope you get I hope you can take care of that soon. And two, this sounds great. I can't believe. I mean, when we all saw it in the direct, we're like, "Is this Smooth Moves 2?" The answer is apparently yes. Mm-hmm. It really is that. You know, it's. I wonder how this got made at Nintendo. Did they just think like, "Man, we should follow up that particular concept"? You know, that's so cool that they even went back to it in the first place.
Well, and it works so well, too, because, to have two WarioWare games in the same generation, that this is definitely, like, succinct and defined enough to like, stand and justify having a second WarioWare game on the Switch. It doesn't, in no way, shape, or form feels like they're, overusing the franchise this generation.
Yeah.
WarioWare DIY wasn't doing it for you, Kevin?
That didn't do it for anybody.
I could not figure out that maker for the life of me.
I
put a little bit of time into that too, and I made nothing good.
I thought that was the end of WarioWare after that game. I was like, this fucking generation killed WarioWare dead. We're never going to have another one. And then now we're here. So we are in a blessed timeline. Okay, Steve, I feel you're burning on your bald scalp. You have that little anime poink, that red little mad symbol. I feel like you're angry.
Yeah,
today.
I'm not in an entirely blessed timeline, guys. This isn't good. In a different kind of format, we might flash back to our last Place Our Bets episode where Kevin's taunting me with the idea of playing a bad game, and I said, "Oh, you know me, I'll probably play a bad game before the end of the year." The year. Well, here we are with, unlike Andre's good adaptation of source material, I'm here with Gargoyles Remastered. Steve, what is Gargoyles? I'm 8 years old. I don't know what Gargoyles is.
8-year-olds are not allowed to listen to Fine Time.
I don't know. Everyone that's not in our age group is 8 to me.
But, my God.
I don't know. The way they... you know what I'm trying to say. Back in the 90s, we had Batman and Ninja Turtles go on the scene and doing their thing. And Disney's all, I want some of that money too. And so we had the Gargoyles, except it wasn't as cynical as all that. It was actually pretty bleak. You had I guess there were a sextet of them overall, and they were led by they were led by Keith David playing Goliath. And they were all coming off the cusp of a genocide, and they were trying to adjust to 1990s New York, and it was wild. They were fighting against the machine and other things that followed them through time, and it was a crazy 3 seasons of syndicated things. And
it was awesome. That was a great show in the 90s.
Gargoyles was fantastic, yes.
Yeah.
And it's all on Disney Plus if you haven't seen it yet. It's great. Lots of hard-hitting action and serious themes, given the time period and who it was made for. So we should have, had all kinds of video games for it, right? Right? No.
I feel like Gargoyles wasn't actually popular. I think I was the only kid who actually watched it. I don't think any of my friends cared.
No, it was fairly niche at the time. Its appreciation came later, but I mean, I feel like I would have shopped it off to somebody better than this okay, let's start from the beginning. Gargoyles. Well, that S is a lie from the bat. It's gargoyle. There's 6 of them. But you only get to play as Goliath. Fine. I get it. Goliath leads while Brooklyn does machines. I get it. Have one good playing gargoyle instead of a bunch of shitty ones that don't play well. We don't really get that either, but hey, what do we do? It's a basic bitch side-scrolling action game. It's split into a mercifully short 5 levels, which in themselves have 2 to 3 sections separated by real load times. Like, you'll complete an area, and this game that was allegedly on the not allegedly, it was on the Genesis in 1994 or 5, will actually take a break and say, now loading.
So the actual Genesis version has loading.
I don't know if it did, but this remastered version does. So I'm assuming the Genesis one did too.
Oh my God.
It's crazy before boss fights and changing sections. And that's whether you're playing the remastered version, I'm putting the biggest air quotes you've ever seen next to that, or the Genesis style, which, hey, guess what? We could toggle between those at any time.
What is this, Xbox Live Arcade?
You're going to run into the same problems almost immediately. And let's start with the running, because the best way to describe Goliath's momentum is to find a rock or a brick, tape some wings to it, then tie a rope around it, then try walking around with it. Because, that's not going to stop right away. And it shows right away. The wings sort of provide a double jump, sort of, I guess. And even though the game looks and sounds on the Genesis side of things like they duct taped 2 NES carts together and then stuck it on the Genesis, there's still too many damn frames like Aladdin Genesis, even though it doesn't look that nice. Like, they gave him, and everybody, but especially Goliath, too many damn frames that you have to negotiate through to do things. And it insists on all of them to do everything. So we'll get into combat. Forget the combat. You go on to.
He is so sassy tonight. I love it.
So we'll talk about the combat. You go to the show, and it's sort of like Batman, right? A bunch of guys jump in the room, and they're punching hard, and then they fall over, and sometimes they get hits back, and they're flying around, and it's a lot of fun. That's not what we're getting here. There's like little claw scrapes that whiff through just about everything, and everyone takes too damn long to kill. There's no time limit in the game, but at the same time, since no one's flinching and you're losing health at an alarming rate, it becomes more prudent to just run away like a bitch most of the time to these labyrinthian levels, get to the boss fight, and all of which of these range from just get them stun locked to, oh God, nobody tested this shit. Especially when the Eye of Odin possesses an elevator, yes, really, and you literally have to count the frames to be in the position to swipe at the metal tentacles that pop out of the side. Yes, really.
Are you taking a break now?
No. You look like
something?
Did you want to? Did you have something to comment?
I'm just thinking about that thing that you posted to social media of one of the boss fights where you just literally sat there and whomped on him for 25 seconds. And then he died, but you just stood still. You just stood still and just went, and then it was over.
Yeah, that was one of them. And then the next level after I did that shit was the elevator where that happened. Where I'm like inching. You know how you were complaining last episode? Oh, it's good that we have Elephant Mario and he's not, and it's not like other games like Donkey Kong Country where we have to wait for every last frame of everything. You have to wait for every last frame of everything in Gargoyles. And I mean everything. Because I don't know how or why they made the art decision and level design choices and they did in 1994. And why they insisted on bringing them back so faithfully in 2023. But it's not good. Toggling back between the two is the most depressing exercise I had in video games this year. The last level's supposed to be a refinery. I only know that because the half-ass story log in between levels told me so. It just puts up a blurb on the screen with some of the gargoyles on the side say, Goliath is just punched through some guys and now he's going to a refinery. Both versions of it really just have it as what can only be described as walls of piss lava and girders. I've already gone over how Goliath moves. I would say how sad it is that they couldn't get Keith David to do some sound bites like they did for DuckTales Remastered a decade ago. But given how sad everything else is, it's probably for the best. The show has an excellent score, none of which makes its way to the game, except for a very half-assed attempt at the iconic theme song, which comes on whenever you pause the game. It's the best part of the game, I gotta tell you. You press pause and you get to listen to Baby's first Gargoyles theme, and like this is bad, but it's still better than everything else here.
I thought it was good because you press pause and then you're not playing the game anymore. You're paused, like you're.
yeah. I mean that too. So this is very incredibly sad, isn't it? I've really painted a bleak picture for you people. How does someone play a really cool Gargoyle game in the 90s? Well, if you have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, you could play Gargoyles Quest and Demon's Crest on Game Boy and Super NES Nintendo Switch Online and get an instance of what could have been a Gargoyles game by the people who were on Disney's Rolodex making games for them for a while. Because in a just world, this would have been the secret fourth Gargoyles game, Gargoyles Quest game you've never heard of, or an atmospheric beat 'em up with 4, 5, or 6 of them beating the shit out of everybody. But no, just a shitty platformer where you fail a castle siege, then wake up 1,000 years later to beat your wife. I mean,
what?
I think I think what happened is the original devs got what Gargoyles was about on half of a cocktail napkin, because it's like, you're watching this sort of thing happen. It's like, okay, you do fight Goliath's lover sometimes, but you go to the end of the game and she's just standing there like, I'm killing you now, which is obviously not what happens because this was the Genesis, but this is a game where you fail to save your people, wake up in the future, and beat your wife in a refinery.
The end?
I told you it was short. And they let you rewind whatever you want. So look, you all know I wasn't dealing with too much more of that than I had. That was one of the features in the trailer. They knew this was shit. They're like, rewind and master the game. They knew they didn't. They knew this was something awful.
Well, see, that's where my mind goes. Is like, did enough people ask for this fucking shitty Gargoyles game to come back? There's just like, okay, sure, I guess.
I think I know what really happened. They made this to sell to rental stores because no one I knew actually owned this. None of the Genesis people I knew actually owned this game. They made this to sell to rental stores. You'd buy it there. You had it for the weekend, and then you were so pissed off that you didn't finish the first level that you never played it again. And because I knew no one that actually played this game, and the ire that came up to, we want a new Gargoyles game. No, do you really though? This one in particular, and then everyone lost their shit last year. This one was getting remastered. Like,
it just proves that nobody actually has played these games.
No one played this game.
Yeah,
like I would have been all about a new Gargoyles game, like the ones I described, or literally anything else, just about. But this was awful, and everyone should feel bad. But hey, I sincerely hope you didn't buy the limited run copy for $35 because holy shit, can you imagine that on a cartridge or disc for the rest of your life sitting on the shelf?
What did you pay?
I paid $15 for the digital version and I feel that was too much.
Do the Gargoyles shoot anybody in the dick?
They barely do anything.
Well, that's obviously the qualifier why RoboCop has beat out Gargoyles this episode. It boils down to the dick shooting.
No, that's definitely a reason.
I didn't mean to accidentally put up a foil to Andre's good game, but here we are. This is the worst kind of adaptation you can play.
Hey, you're allowed to play. I mean, like I talked about like Uncharted for an entire month, right? So I mean, like it's about time you play something shitty.
Hopefully that'll be it for a while, unless I lose a certain bet. I have a good feeling, though.
Oh, you will lose that. We'll be right back in a second.
Fine time.
Gotta risk it for the Trisket.
You can't say that on the air. Hello, everybody. We're back. You didn't hear anything at all except me. Big questions. It's time for the big questions. We do have a few big questions. They are mostly about video games, but sometimes not. So I guess I'll start. As of a few days ago, PlayStation removed Twitter integration from all their devices, meaning that you cannot directly post pictures or video directly to Twitter from your console anymore. This is kind of a big deal. I guess I'm going to post to you guys how big of a deal this is, but I think this is a big deal because obviously that ushered in the PS4 era. We're not doing select and start and all the usual. We're doing options and a share button. You can share directly to a streaming platform, to a social media platform. And now Facebook is gone. It's been gone for a few years. You can't post to Twitter anymore either. That's kind of strange, Steve.
You know, I think Twitter is, or whatever, what we're actually calling it now, is really working its way out of, being persona non grata. This really only came up yesterday, but even Nintendo's not really leaning in on Twitter anymore. Yesterday they had the Indie World presentation, and it concluded with, the two chipper hosts going, make sure you follow us on our official social media page. And it said X and the @social account. They would not say X. They refused.
Nobody wants to say X.
No one will officially give X the time of day.
On PlayStation, it still says Twitter. Well, it did. It said Twitter up until the end. It never said X. I don't know what Switch says right now. I haven't looked in a while because I haven't had a personal Twitter account to post to. So I've just been doing the QR code thing.
As of the other night, it's still been Twitter.
So I guess there's two halves of this, right? One, and there's a lot of people out there saying, well, this doesn't matter. You can just use the app, or I just get stuff off the USB stick. You are wildly missing the point if you're saying stuff like that. Good luck explaining that shit to normies. Steve, imagine explaining to your mom how to use a USB stick.
Well, yeah, you just sweat by the USB stick every time we need to hot swap out the hard drives to, switch in our other games, right? It's that easy.
Yeah.
But I want to argue this a little bit.
Okay.
I don't, the USB stick, sure. Here's the flaw in your question. Steve's mom, I do not think, is uploading video game footage to Twitter.
Okay.
To be fair, I do feel like as far as using the app, the people that want to upload video game footage to Twitter, probably like 90 to 95% of those people already have the app on their phone. If you're dedicated enough to want to share footage of the game on Twitter. So I think that's to a degree. I'm not saying there's not value in having the direct PS5 to Twitter upload, but I do think that it's a valid argument.
Okay, I think you are correct to a degree. I just think that there is a not insignificant amount of people who just post stuff to Facebook, and now they haven't been able to do that anymore, and they just post stuff to their Twitter feed, and it's easy. And I think that's like part of the appeal of the share button. Now, again, we're intrepid. We're gonna post our shit no matter what.
Mm-hmm. There's less incentive to do it when there's an extra step, for sure.
Yes, that's all I'm trying to say. But obviously, and here's the other half of this, they have to. They have to get off of here. No company wants to be associated with Twitter or X. Nobody. And they shouldn't. They have to get out for very obvious reasons. So I understand Sony not wanting to be associated with this. I'm actually shocked Nintendo and Apple still have Twitter integration.
I think they're probably just paying a fee, and when those things are lapsing, we'll start seeing more of that.
Yeah, because ever since I want to say as early as 2012, iOS had Twitter integration.
Well, as we're recording, the PS4 turned 10 today, and I guess you would set up some sort of deal with Twitter at the time to have that sort of integration in place for however long, and they didn't renew. If Nintendo set up a similar agreement, we might hear something about that around March when Switch really. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
That's you're totally right. So if it disappears this coming March, we know why. And Nintendo has had for a few years now a QR code solution, as I mentioned, to get your pictures. Shit, I used to have a dummy Twitter account to post to if I wanted stuff off of there that I didn't want to, you know what I mean, post to main, but now you don't have to do that anymore. I guess some people would just take their whole ass SD card and put it in their computer. I guess that's also a solution, but I never really felt like doing that. Yeah, man, I get it. They got to do it, but it sucks for some normies, and it makes that share button a little less sharey. That's all. So, all right, Steve, next big question.
So, yeah, Nintendo did their financial report thing, and among the usual sales figures and milestones, Nintendo announced a live-action Zelda movie during the whole thing. It's being
oh my, save it.
Hold on, Kevin. Be nice. At least until I finish the sentence. It's being co-financed with Sony Pictures. Avi Arad is co-producing with Wes Bald to direct. It's obviously in early stages. I would assume they said this to, say something to piggyback off of Mario making a shit ton of money back in spring. But do we have any faith in a Zelda live-action film in general?
I do. And the reason why I do is because of Miyamoto. He was the reason why I wasn't worried about the Mario movie, basically. And there was nothing to worry about because that was exactly what I think it should have been. It's not like the greatest movie in the world, but it wasn't embarrassing. It wasn't 1993. And I think that's what Miyamoto was there for. And Nintendo's like, look, if we're going to do movies again, even though we got burned 30 years ago, if we're going to do this shit again, you better be on board. Like, real people from our shit have to be on board. And who better than Miyamoto? So that's why I'm also not worried about Zelda. It's his original creation as well, right? Even though he hasn't worked on it in forever. He cares. It's going to be fine. Kevin's going to tell me otherwise right now.
I already said, ugh.
Okay,
yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly fairly off put about this, and I'm not committing to seeing this. I will reserve the right if I think that this looks disappointing enough to not watch it, because I do. I hold the Zelda franchise, like that's been a constant thing my entire life, more or less. And I don't, I hold it pretty close to my heart. I don't want to, I have a really hard time seeing this be satisfying.
See, I'm sitting in between the two of you. I'm like, live action, huh? But also, like I said, they clearly just started. And I feel like I really shouldn't levy any real judgment until we actually see something. And but who am I kidding? Even after we see something and it could look like absolute ass, I'm still going to buy a ticket. No, it's a good way for me to also ask what would need to happen for us to get as enthusiastic about this as we did the Mario movie.
Okay, let me take the reins on this because I'm feeling feisty already.
Okay.
So I do think live action was the wrong choice. I would be more optimistic, but still fairly hesitant if this was animated.
No.
But I don't think that's the major issue. I would have much rather, if they had to do this, to see this be a 10-episode miniseries. And I'll tell you why. Because Zelda's never been about the story. And Andre brought up, we don't want to, we don't want them to turn this into something it isn't. And I don't want that either. I don't want them to try and shoehorn a bunch of lore and like complexity that doesn't need to be there. But the Zelda is about like the adventure and the setting. And I think it's going to be really hard to translate that over 1.5 or 2 hours. It's just going to feel like a flash in the pan that's not going to encapsulate what I think they should be trying to do with this. Yeah, you know what? If there was ever a movie, I would have said, now's the time to fucking bring back hand-drawn animation. That would make me excited from an aesthetic viewpoint, but I think still just the format of a movie is going to make this a tough sell for me.
I don't think I've ever disagreed with you more on the show. Seriously. I don't think you've ever said anything that I have been so diametrically opposed to. First of all, and this goes for both of you, we can't do animated Zelda. We can't. This has to be live action. There's no way in the world. And I'm not talking like Illumination animation, because obviously that fit Mario. I'm even talking like, if you want to call it like adult animation, like, like this Final Fantasy Spirits Within or some shit. They cannot do that for Zelda. No way. It's got to be live action or it's not going to connect the way they needed to connect. Number two, I don't think you can say that you don't want a whole bunch of lore and shit like that. That's not necessary, but that will be exactly what happens with a miniseries. That's why it needs to be a movie, so they can get in and get out.
No, if it was a miniseries, you could just have a number of different plot points. It doesn't need to like make it overly complex. It doesn't need to make it something it's not.
Okay, well,
if you have a mini-series, you run into danger of it being The Witcher, which has its head so far up its own ass that no one liked it by the time we made it to season 2.
Yeah, but how many fucking miniseries are great? I think that's an unfair comparison.
Want a miniseries with the full admission that they're not usually good.
You know what? I don't want anything. I don't want a miniseries. I'm saying that I think as an alternative that would have been significantly better.
I cannot believe you're opposed to this. This is wouldn't you say Zelda is your favorite series? Like flatly?
Yeah. Probably if we were taking all franchises and boiling it down to that, yes.
I just can't believe you feel this way. That's insane.
I think that's why I feel this way. I can't see a movie like doing it justice. I just really can't.
Oh, okay. Well, besides that, here's my platonic ideal of a Zelda movie. I think the look needs to be correct, first of all. And it needs to be an original story, secondly. Those are the two things that I think it needs to be successful. It doesn't need to look like any particular Zelda game. Like, I don't think we need to be out here looking exactly like Majora's Mask or something, or making, Wind Waker the movie or something, right? Like, I don't really think that's appropriate.
Making any existing Zelda game the movie is a colossally bad idea.
Okay, so we can all agree on that, right?
Totally agree.
I think it would be bad if they went for, like, let's say, the original Zelda's look in a movie, like the green tunic and, like, here are the moblins that look exactly like this and, like, whatever. Like, I'm not sure that's the look they should go for. So maybe it should be something that looks kind of classic, but like not too stodgy like that. Like that probably looks a little too like, I hate to say the word cosplay because it's a movie, but I think you guys know what I mean. It just might feel a little too like fan filmy, which I don't think they should.
So what are you thinking? Like kind of going in like Lord of the Rings aesthetic direction as far as monsters?
Yeah, they need to look a little more realistic. Now, I think the weakest thing for me about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is its enemy design. I feel like is not nearly as good or memorable as like previous Zeldas. And now it doesn't matter because the game has like a billion other great things going for it. So like who cares ultimately? It's just a small minor thing. So I don't want them to look like that either. But again, they can't just look like an Octorok from Link to the Past or whatever, right? Like, I don't necessarily think that's great either. So it's tough to come up with like an aesthetic that may work.
Dennis Hopper as the Octorok.
Yes. The story needs to be original and not complex, which is, again, what I feel what will happen if we do that miniseries idea. It needs to be as simple as Ganon is evil. Let's get the 3 Triforce, or let's get the 8. I feel like get the 8 doodads might feel too rushed or whatever for a movie. So let's just make it the 3 Triforce. Doesn't fucking matter. Let's collect them and beat Ganon. Okay, fine. That would allow for maximum Zelda-ness in the meantime. Show, like, Lake Hylia. Show, he has to climb Death Mountain or whatever. You get to do all those things while having the simple story to go along with it. That's all I want from a Zelda movie.
Hey, Andre. Who's Ganon?
I don't know. I feel like you're about to tell me. Is this a trick question?
No, I don't, but I'm just curious what your thought on that is.
Who is Ganon?
No. Who's playing him in your hypothetical?
Who's playing Ganon? I guess that really depends on if it's Ganon or Ganondorf, right? I don't know. I don't really have a person in mind. It would have to be, I don't know.
Do you think Joaquin Phoenix could be Ganondorf?
Yes. Actually, I do. That ain't bad. The Rock?
He's in everything now.
Really?
No. The Rock's... No.
Really?
He doesn't... He's not, like, sinister enough.
Oh, you never really do see The Rock be a bad guy, huh? So, I guess maybe he doesn't have that feel.
Yeah. The facial features don't fit, I don't think. He's got to look meaner.
Yeah, anyway, I largely disagree, Kevin. I think a Zelda movie could be great, and I don't worry about it with Miyamoto there. I just don't. So I think it's going to be fine.
I honestly think that there is a chance, and I'm not saying I believe this is going to happen. I think there's a chance this gets canceled, that they get down the road and they start saying how do we that they start internally questioning, how do we do this justice? I do. I think that's on the table.
There's no way.
I mean, I'm not.
There is no way this gets canceled. They do not make a public announcement like that. This is not 2003 where John Woo's like, I'm talking to Nintendo right now, and we're making Metroid Prime the movie.
If it gets canceled, I'm going to be such a fucking dick about it. I will never let you hear the end.
I don't even want to. We probably won't even make it a big question. We'll wait till a show where you have to skip or something. I don't care if it's like 9 months from now. Then we'll finally talk about it.
I'm going to record. We're going to record one episode, and the entire topic is going to be me rubbing your guys' stupid faces in the mud about how I was right and you are dumb.
You're just going to cackle for 90 minutes, and then I'll just play the music, and then we'll end.
I'm sitting here with a wait and see approach, and you're like, I'm going to rub it in your stupid faces.
He hates this. I've never seen him.
I really do. I'm not hamming it up for the show. When I seen this, I was like, fuck, really? I don't like it. I genuinely don't like it.
Everyone said
maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying but Mario was fine. Mario can be, you can go and you can have fun, and it doesn't need to take itself too seriously. That's got room to breathe. I'm not there is a chance. Maybe I will change my mind. Maybe I will say, okay, we've seen a trailer. It's got potential. Maybe.
We got
when you're talking about the game where there was a magic train once that had cannons.
Yeah, and that one sucked. Like no one likes that.
Oh, I liked her. I don't know. Why do I even talk to you people?
I don't like any DS or. I mean, okay, I haven't played Link to the Past 2, but I mean, like, I feel like any of the.
Really?
No, I've never played it.
I keep telling him when it inevitably hits Super Duper Switch, he has to play it.
Yeah,
that was so good.
But it was the same thing with Mario, especially when they announced Illumination was in it. Everyone's just like, oh no, they're going to make fart jokes and there's going to be minions. And like everyone just made all these assumptions. Yeah, I know you did.
That was me. I freely admit it.
Yeah, you need to do a fuck I was wrong. Oh, I guess we're already doing it.
I did do it. When we talked about the Super Mario movie, I said I was wrong. They did great. This is the best looking movie Illumination ever made.
I mean, low bar, but yeah, I mean, like, so yeah, I will wait. If the first trailer comes out and it looks like ass, then sure, Kevin, I'll be like, okay, yeah, no thanks, but we'll see. Okay, we have one more big question, Steve.
Yeah, more Steve. Fucking deal with it.
Wow.
It hasn't even been a week since this happened, but it feels like a month of this. So, sit in your probably safe chair for this one. So on November 9th, WB announces that Coyote vs. Acme, the hybrid live-action animated Looney Tunes film that was previously set for summer and moved for Barbie is now being outright canceled so as to get a $30 million in tax breaks. Now, you might remember last year when we went over a similar situation with Batgirl.
And Scooby-Doo.
And Scooby-Doo and a bunch of other things being purged from HBO Max. But it gets dumber. Because on November 12th, following a lot of public outcry and a lot of internal outcry, to be frank, WB permitted Dave Green, the director, to shop the film to other distributors.
The very next day.
The next day, Congressman, I'm going to butcher this one, Joaquin Castro, publicly criticizes this decision, stating, the WB tactic of scrapping fully made films for tax breaks is predatory and anti-competitive. As the Justice Department and FTC revise their antitrust guidelines, they should review this conduct. As someone remarked, it's like burning down a building for the insurance money.
Y'all fucked up now. You can't be doing this shit. You can do it two things. You can cancel Batgirl. You can cancel Scooby-Doo. You can't cancel Looney Tunes, apparently. That is just too much for the U.S. government.
I mean, if you work a job, you know that those tax breaks are code for, well, I guess we'll steal from the American public.
Yep.
So those are coming from us. Did they really think they were going to just keep doing that without anyone taking a cursory look?
Well, they're so blatant about it, too. They literally said that's the reason why they're doing it. They didn't give a fuck. They were just saying, yeah, we're doing this for the tax break. Other companies, other studios do that. And they just hush. Oh, it's not the right time to release this movie. We don't really have a window of opportunity for it. The moment is past, whatever bullshit they make up. WB didn't care. They just said, yeah, it's a tax break. We're just canceling stuff. The U.S. government doesn't like that shit. You're not skirting them on taxes ever. Nobody will ever do it. Not Donald Trump right now in court. That's the reason why he's in court. Not the millions of other things he did. It's the taxes. You cannot do it. And that's when the government's like, maybe we should take a look at this. And these inquisitions are no joke, Steve. We know how this shit goes. This isn't just talk. So they're fucked.
Zaslow's going to have some interesting guests for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
They are fucked, and rightfully so. So
do you think we'll hear how this pans out?
Yeah. These hearings are typically like public and like stuff like that. So like I don't know if you remember 15-ish years ago when the government was looking to like steroids in baseball or whatever. All that stuff is like public hearings, So like whenever they do investigations like this, it is always just like the 30 years ago with the violence in video games or bad words in these songs, like that's all that stuff is typically like public record. So
Night Trap will never be on a Nintendo console.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Almost said Todd Howard. I forgot what his fucking name is.
Howard Lincoln.
Yeah, thank you. I knew there was a Howard in there. Yeah, man, this is wild. They fucked up now. Just on the surface, I had never heard of Coyote versus Acme. This sounds great. I mean, they're probably just using the same technologies as they did for like Space Jam 2. We can just hope it's better than that.
I've seen the few clips and some of the recording sessions for music that are coming on. I mean, I would have bought a ticket.
Yeah. I do wonder, I guess my only question now is, will this retroactively release Batgirl and Scooby-Doo Halloween or whatever? Do you think like those will now, hey, you know what? We changed our mind. We're releasing all these to get the government off their back.
Whoopsie.
I think once the investigation goes underway, to a certain point, they might be having their hands forced. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's inevitable end game of this, Kevin.
Well, that would be in the public interest at least. I always get we always have these stories that are, finances versus art, and it always feels a little icky.
Yeah, always. We seem to talk about that more and more on the show, unfortunately. All right, we'll be right back. We're going to talk Game of the Year, our personal games of the years and such.
Fine time.
We're back. We're refreshed. We feel good. It is. It's our. Oh, nice. It's our final segment. Well, Kevin, you brought something up to us this weekend that you thought would be fun to do on the show. So why don't you explain it to the people?
Yeah, well, it was a fucking terrible idea. I said we should talk about Game of the Year, and then we realized it was going to be incredibly anticlimactic when we all three went around and said it was Tears of the Kingdom. It was Tears of the Kingdom. It was Tears of the Kingdom. Mm-hmm. So, as a consolation prize, we're going to talk about personal runners up for Game of the Year. So I'll get started. Definitely at the top of my runner up list was Sea of Stars. We talked about that game before it came out. I was quite excited for it, and not only did it meet, but it exceeded my expectations. And I really do think that's going to be one that really sticks with me for years. I'm excited for like 10 years from now when I'm like, okay, enough time has passed. I'm going to run through Sea of Stars again. And it kept itself fresh the entire way through, which I really liked. So, yeah. What about you, Andre?
Yeah, one, I'm glad it was up there for you. As you know, I kind of just thought the game was fine. I enjoyed it well enough. It was fine, but you were really hype on it and it met your expectations. And that's always great when that happens. Mm-hmm. Something I didn't have any expectations for, because quite frankly, I had never heard of it, was Remnant 2. I had never heard of the first Remnant at all. So I was like, what is this Remnant 2 coming out? And this is for sure my favorite action game of the year. Yes, more than Final Fantasy 16. It is my absolute favorite. Remnant 2 is the truth. If you don't know what Remnant 2 is, it's a procedurally generated third-person shooter, but it's not a roguelike. It is way too long for that. Each run could take you easily like 15 hours or something like that. So, and it doesn't restart you when you die. So it's not a roguelike. Even the story beats are procedurally generated. You're not going to get the same stuff every time. It's not the same story. So it's Unreal Engine 5. Nanite is used, almost said irresponsibly. It is used very responsibly. It is used very, very liberally. And it has so much cool geometry. The architecture is out of this world. There's only, quote unquote, only the 3 biomes, but within those biomes, there are so many sub biomes and sub areas that you get so much cool and different scenery. Both of you would love this game. I hope sometime you get to it. I can't recommend it enough, personally.
Is it a full price game?
It's $50.
Ah, okay.
I don't know. Steve, what are your, not Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, my not Tears of the it's been a great year for games for me anyway, and I had a hard time narrowing it. I narrowed it down to games I finished this year. That's and even that was tough to do. But I'm gonna bug you people about Fishing Vacation in the most vaguest terms possible. What the fuck is Fishing Vacation, Steve? Sometime in the middle of summer, I got a tweet out of nowhere from maybe Warrior64 or one of those other guys like, Fishing Vacation is now on Nintendo Switch for $2. Well, fuck. I got $2. I could go on a fishing vacation.
You like fishing? You have $2. You can have a fishing vacation.
It's a fishing RPG with the Game Boy aesthetic. It's even got the Super Game Boy kind of borders and things that you can play with, but there's a bit of a horror element to it. So, that's another check. I think they made this game for me. They made a game for Steve. I mean, yeah, I know I like Super Nintendo more than Game Boy, so, better luck next time with that one, guys. But, you checked off most of the Steve boxes.
It really does sound like a game made for you. Exactly.
And it's done in 2 hours. I mean, I might have liked more, but frankly, it did what it needed to do, and it was done, and I didn't feel ripped off. I think I wrote on my games I finished list that it costs about as much as a Slim Jim does, and I'm going to remember it for much longer than one. And yeah, everyone go buy Fishing Vacation, and I want a nice paper about what you liked about it when we get back in January.
Do you suppose it's inspired by those Natsume games, River King, maybe?
I think there's some element of it to that. Or they were at least a little inspired by it.
I don't know anything about River King. I just thought of it when you were describing, it's like a Game Boy game it's like, oh yeah, I think we got the Game Boy versions of River King here. So,
I mean, it's also over in 2 hours, so I think they superficially borrowed from River King, just on a level of, it's a fishing RPG for your Game Boy, wink.
My next pick is Metroid Prime Remastered, because they just fucking nailed that. I think I did the little mini fuck I was wrong, because I was one of the wrong people that were saying that, you kind of need that GameCube control scheme that they had come up with, and I was wrong. Just the controls alone are worth the price of admission here, because it does play better with modern traditional FPS controls. But yeah, it looks great. It was, it's a pretty quick and breezy playthrough if you want it to be, and they just nailed it. So, on top of just being one of the best games ever to begin with.
Yeah, I was obviously very satisfied with this as well, even though I think we talked about on the show, this playthrough revealed quite a few flaws to me that I didn't necessarily feel at the time, but obviously I still think it's a great game. So
I thought it was great. I didn't really miss the GameCube controls either. I knew it was an option. I flipped through all the options and they even had a Wii-esque option where you could play with the two Joy-Con. I'm like, let's see how modern goes, and I didn't look back.
It's a good choice.
I will say, though, at the time, I really didn't mind the GameCube controls, even though we already had like dual analog controlling FPS. I didn't mind that. It felt fine at the time. It wasn't really that kind of blastathon game, so I was like, okay, it works, but this is definitely better.
It was designed with it in mind, but it doesn't do it any favors, I don't think, in retrospect.
Well, this also implies that you didn't play like the Wii versions where you could do the Wiimote and nunchuck, which I feel like is like I
did play the Wii version. We've talked about that back on on our previous creative endeavor, and you guys gave me shit because I always maintained that I didn't like the Wii pointer controls on Metroid Prime.
That's so strange because after Metroid Prime 3, I was like, I'm never going back. Like, I'm never playing the old way again. So, yeah, for me, I was like, this is it now. I would like to mention Dead Space. I played at the beginning of this year, Dead Space 2023, obviously, the remake of the 2008 game. And as I said on our post-game show about Dead Space 2023, and thank you if you've listened to that, I've never played the original Dead Space, so I have nothing to compare it to. I'm just playing this remake, and it's fantastic. The environments are so richly detailed. It is like filled with disgusting gore and like, just all these crazy details blanketed in this giant bed of volumetric fog most of the time, of which is like maybe my favorite effect in video games, volumetric fog. If a game has that, I'm here for you. And it's just a great survival horror game. It's so good. It's one of those games that subtly take really good advantage of new hardware with the way we can load stuff and the way we can have the map now and the way we can like lay out stuff way better than we ever could before, because we don't have to worry about now we need to load this zone, now we need to load this zone. All that's out the window. So it's great. Like, and unlike Alan Wake 2, which I bitched about on this very program last week, the difficulty curve in Dead Space is perfect. The combat is fair, it's fun, it's scary. It's involving. You will die. It's not easy because a survival horror game is never really that easy, but it's a great ride, Dead Space. Kevin, I feel like you've played some of this game, if I'm not totally mistaken.
I played through about a third of this, and I did like it. I was having a hard, because I cannot play this if the kids are like maybe awake and around at all, so that made it hard. I'm fine with scary movies. I do have a hard time motivating myself, I think, because especially with like the inventory management and stuff, I feel very like tense when I play these games, so I was enjoying it, but it was also stressful, so maybe that was less of a motivator to keep going back for more.
I know what you mean. It's by design, of course. That's the way the game is built. I feel like I'm just mentioning games and saying, Steve, play video game, but I feel like I'm going to do it again. Steve, play video game.
I know. I feel
Space
bad
game.
because you did an episode about it, but I mean, I might have played it sooner, but we got Callisto Protocol instead. Boo!
Boo.
From what I understand.
What's another one this year you were gaga about?
Speaking of things we did episodes about, we did 2 episodes about Octopath Traveler 2. It sold reasonably well, and everyone forgot about it already. What the hell, you people? What is wrong with everyone? Besides Kevin. We know what's wrong with Kevin. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, guys, I'm looking at the game. I know I can't take too much stock at Game Awards, but it's not nominated for anything there. I mean, not even RPG. Final Fantasy 16 is not even an RPG. And okay, enough of that. We went over it all. It's got everything you wanted. The great backdrops, the great music, the great sprite work. Just it's all top notch. It even has the magical lesbians. Magical lesbians, people. Why
magical lesbians?
Why aren't you people playing this game?
Magical lesbians in a performance troupe. They perform on stages, the magical lesbians. It's great. You should buy Octopath Traveler 2. Maybe that's why it got erased. Maybe the conservatives found out about the lesbians and it got canceled somehow because it's too woke.
Jeff Keighley's just playing Octopath 2. Yeah, we'll put this on the list. He gets offended when they pop on screen.
So the moment Jeff signed up for Parler, Octopath 2 was doomed.
No, please. Jeff trolls on Truth Social. He doesn't get a Parler. Kevin, I guess you got any more?
Yeah, the Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores DLC. When I think about if somebody was going to be at my house and they wanted to see let's show off the PS5, I haven't really seen it yet. That's probably what I would pick. We talked a lot this year about Final Fantasy 16 being very bombastic and a technical showcase, but I really thought Burning Shores set itself apart from the base game by being PS5 exclusive, as we had talked about earlier this year. Just in graphics and verticality was a big one. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I have thought about Burning Shores quite a bit throughout the year, and I didn't expect it to stick with me as much as it did. So yeah, that was great. If you've played the game and just skipped the DLC because you just didn't get around to it, I would highly suggest it.
The Hollywood sign. Mm-hmm. I can't get over the way that looks. The vegetation, the geometry on it. I have no idea how that's running at 60 frames a fucking second in a video game on a PlayStation 5. And it is maybe the best graphics I've ever seen. It is insane. Right? It has to be. Would you agree with me? Is this the best looking game you've ever seen?
If we're discounting the Matrix demo, then yes, I would probably say that.
Yeah, real game.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I felt the same way about it. You did. Just real quick, I really do want to mention R-Type Final 3 Evolve. This came out in February, and typically when we think of shmups, we're thinking of something old, sprite-based, whatever. Nah, baby, this is a Unreal Engine 5 new technology shmup. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't look like RoboCop or Remnant 2 or whatever, right? But it is using that engine, and it is using it smartly for those purposes. It's a really good showcase of what you can do for, obviously this project doesn't have a lot of money because it's a shmup in 2023. Of course it doesn't, right? Even though it's R-Type, one of the most legendary ones. That time is long past. So it looks really good. They use the 3D space to its advantage. They do some really cool tricks with it, and lighting and stuff like that. Dark areas. Oh, you're lighting stuff up with your shots. I love stuff like that. So yeah, if you want, it's very, very, very hard. Very hard, even on like easy. So don't go into this unless you are a shmup sadist or something. Don't go into this thinking like, oh, I can just turn it down and have it. No, this is for experts only. But if you are that kind of person, Steve, definitely R-Type Final 3 Evolved.
I know you like this yet, obviously. I'm sorry, what?
I know you liked R-Type Final 2, so definitely like follow up with this one at some point.
I didn't play this yet, so I'm going to ask you just one thing. Can I go into options and change the name of the game?
Yes, you can still do that. All the shit's the same.
Okay.
You can still play Bido Burst 5, or no, that was mine. What did you name yours? I forgot.
I think I was just being a dick, and I went with R-Type Final 3 only for them to do this.
Yeah, then they actually did it. So yeah, that's all I really got to say about that one. Steve.
Yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Pikmin 4 again, because I listened back to that episode and it sounded like I bitched about it a lot, because I did. I felt like it was too easy, but there are a lot of fun moments in the game too, and it's also one of the Nintendo's where they look, we need to figure out how Unreal works, and they did, and it looks incredible here. There was a lot of fun moments with the environment itself that were, again, simplistic, but it was fun and video gamey and even Nintendo-y. I feel like we miss out whenever we just see Mario's every year again and again, although, like we said last time, we're getting more creative. I like creative Nintendo, and that's what Pikmin 4 is. It was still very creative, even though I want Pikmin 5 sooner, and I want it to be a little harder.
I guess my only thing is like, it's been 10 years, and it's like, well, what's it like? Well, it's Pikmin. I guess that's all it needs to be, right? I guess it doesn't really need to, like, break the bank. It's inventive because it is Pikmin.
I mean, you get a whole bunch of them, and they still sing the happy song if things are going okay.
Oh, they better. You can't take that away.
So, I mean, it's still Pikmin, and it's still wonderful, and I want more of it instead of waiting till 2033 for another one.
Is it the same happy song from before? They
rotate through a few now.
Okay, cool. But they still have that one.
That one's still in there.
Before we move on, I need one last chance at this, because obviously not a 2023 game, but I played The Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls on Game Boy earlier this year. And before the year's up, I just need to make one last appeal. If you've got 4 or 5 hours to kill, go out and get the ROM and get the English patch for this and play it, because it was so fucking good.
I'm sorry I laughed because I was thinking about you pronouncing the Japanese name of this game.
I didn't even include it in the notes because I wasn't going to embarrass myself again. But you know what I'm talking about. So whatever you want to call it, it's great.
Watch Nintendo swoop in with the official English patch on Game Boy, Nintendo Switch Online for Christmas.
I feel like they would never. I feel like 3DS was the time to do that. If they're not going to do it, then they would never. I mean, I would like them to.
Look, we live in the world where Devil World finally officially exists. Okay,
yeah, finally.
I'm doing pretty good.
That's incredible that it's on there.
As I mentioned, the English patch, the fan translation patch, is very good, and it's got like funny nuance to it. So it's cool. It's a perfect way to play it.
It's always good to see a really good fan translation. So okay, I guess that's all of our go-tos. I want to end with a little thought here, because the Marvels opened this past weekend. It didn't do very well. I think it made $45 million domestically. That's lower than The Flash, one of the worst movies I have ever seen. It's easily the lowest opening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's wild that we're here. but we're here. And amid all the dumb and disingenuous discourse on social media, of which you know what people are saying, I'm going to ignore all that because I think there's a very easy explanation of how we got here with the Marvels. So let me take this back a year and a half, though. Let me take this back to Doctor Strange 2, or rather Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, the Sam Raimi directed, Doctor Strange sequel. The first Doctor Strange is a favorite of mine, not just as like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just in general. I love that movie. I think it's really good. I've watched it numerous times. So I was really hot on a sequel, and I enjoyed Multiverse of Madness for the most part. The problem is the villain for that movie is from WandaVision. I didn't watch no goddamn WandaVision on Disney Plus. I don't even know what that is. So, I didn't even understand her motivations or what was going on there. It didn't really matter much. Like I said, I still really enjoyed the movie, and the movie gives you as much context as it can. But if you didn't watch 2 seasons of the show on Disney Plus, you're at a loss for this villain. I was like, thanks, guys. I have no interest in watching the show. I definitely don't now. And that was the thing I was worried about when Disney Plus started and they announced a million Marvel shows for it. And I was like, I really hope I don't have to start watching all this shit to keep up with watching the movies. And Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange proved that that will be the case. You're going to have to. And of course, that's the problem with the Marvels. It's, I think what it is on, maybe Steve can help me, it's called Miss Marvel, right? On Disney Plus.
I think that's the one.
Yeah, there's a few seasons of that. There's some other seasons of another show where if you didn't watch that shit, you are completely lost on the Marvels, this movie. So it's why didn't you just release this as Disney Plus then? If that's your audience, if that's what you really want to do, you can't expect people to show up to the theater. And then, this is the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, not the do your homework universe. I don't want to watch these shows. I don't care if they're good. I don't want to do this. That is not how I want to experience this. I want to show up to the movies, watch the movie, know what's going on. And you know what else? They didn't really do all this interconnected shit too much. I think it's too much now. Because before, think about building up to the Avengers. Yeah, it was always just a little post-credit thing, whether it's the Hulk or Iron Man or Captain America or whatever, right? Or Thor. It was just a little thing in the back. If you wanted to pay attention, you could. If not, that's fine. You could also just show up to the Avengers and have a ball. You can't do that anymore. It's all this. It's too much now. It's not that there's too much movies or that there's I'm sick of superhero movies, because neither thing is the case for me anyway. Think about Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That was a humongous hit, right? And that was because that's just Guardians of the Galaxy. It's not connected to anything else. People know what that is. Here's the third one. Watch it. Enjoy. Everyone did. Same thing for the Spider-Man movies, right? They're just these things you can watch. Okay, we're going to have a Spider-Man time for 2 hours. Nobody wants to go to the movies and see the Marvels and be like, well, I'm sorry I didn't watch 3 seasons of the show on Disney Plus. That feels so bad to me. I'm sorry I'm rambling. Steve, do you agree at all? Am I off base here? I can't take it anymore.
No, you're not. And I get why they're doing it. It's extremely popular, and they figured, these people will do anything. We can slap it all together and people will do whatever they want because we're making bazillions of dollars. You know what else is making bazillions of dollars and doesn't pull this shit? Pokemon. They've been making Pokemon movies forever. You know what they're about? They're all self-contained stories that if you've seen even one episode of the show or just looked at it all, you can follow along the story. You can watch any one of the movies, follow what's going on, and walk out. None of them are masterworks by any stretch of the imagination, but you're not going to be super de-duper confused. Satoshi Tajiri doesn't say, don't forget to watch this many episodes of the anime beforehand before coming to see Pokemon Forever in theaters this July. No, you could just go in, watch, laugh at Pikachu for a few minutes and, go home. Here, no. Why would you want to do all this homework? And I'm getting sick of all the shills that say, oh, that's not so difficult. You just need to do all the shit Andre just said. Watch all this shit on Disney Plus. It's not that hard. Bring your notebook.
I don't want to, man. I don't want to watch this shit.
I want to watch a movie. It wasn't that. It's never been this way either. It's 2002. Here's a movie called Spider-Man. It's 2004. Here's a movie called Spider-Man 2. And you could watch Spider-Man 2 without watching Spider-Man 1. You'd get more out of it if you did, but if you didn't, it wasn't that bad.
I only saw Spider-Man Far From Home. I didn't see Spider-Man Homecoming. It didn't fucking matter. You know what I mean? Like you can just show up to the movies and watch something. You cannot do that with almost said Miss Marvel. See, I already forgot the name. The Marvels. So, again, I know the online discourse is, it's women or it's whatever. And I don't want to get into all that bullshit. And I'm not saying there's no merit to it. I'm just saying from the base perspective of me going to the movies, I don't want to feel like homework. I don't. I just want to watch a movie, man. And continue to watch more movies, but now they want me to watch Disney Plus shit, and I'm not going to. There is no less than 5 different Star Wars live action shows right now in Disney Plus, some of them with multiple seasons. Isn't Mandalorian on season fucking 4?
Something like that.
There's 3 animated Star Wars ones. That's a lot. Now, I'm not saying any of these will factor into the next movie they make or whatever. I'm just saying that this is so much product. It's overwhelming. I don't want to watch even if I were so into Star Wars, it's do I want to watch Mandalorian and Boba Fett and Ahsoka or whatever that's called? And here's another season of Clone Wars 15 years after it ended.
Especially when
I think to a certain degree, the people that might be interested in some of that stuff aren't even looking into it because they're just so fatigued by the constant, I don't even, maybe if there was one new Star Wars show every 2 years, I would watch them. But when they're constantly coming out, I'm not even looking into what they are.
Especially when there's 3 seasons of Gargoyles you should be watching.
Yes, Gargoyles on Disney Plus. And don't watch X-Men. Doesn't hold up. Gargoyles, absolutely for sure. Okay, so you guys agree. I don't know. I just wanted to bitch about that for a little bit just because, man, I like superhero movies and I like the MCU, and it's not the MCU anymore. It has nothing. It's not the cinematic universe anymore, and that sucks. And it seems like people are agreeing.
Would you say that you're trying to give an FU to the MU?
We are ending the show now. Thanks for listening for 2023. Like I said, we have a really fun slate of stuff coming up for you. We've made it 2 years of this show. I really cannot believe it. We're here though, and we will be back for year 3. But until then, you can find us on Twitter at Fine Time Podcast. Check the description of this podcast to find our names on Blue Sky. See you next year. Bye.
You've been listening to Fine Time.